the final exams are over and most of you are confused which book to buy, because there are certain books that are absolutely necessary and there are certain books that are completely irrelevant either from NEET or from the Olympiad perspective. In this video, I will discuss some list of books that I feel is absolutely essential for NEET, as well as there are certain books that are essential for Olympiad section. But all the books I name, I will give you a free drive link where you can access all these books PDF format for free, because there are books in this list that cost more than 15,000, 16,000 in real. So I will give you a free PDF drive link and you can access all these books for free. Just comment book in this video. So to start with, I would like to introduce myself. I am Niladri sir. I am a biology teacher for NEET and Olympiads for the last 8 years. I have mentored some great ranks in NEET over last 8 years. I have also mentored state rank 1 in NSEB this year. In fact, 2 times in last 3 years, NSEB state topper. So to begin with, firstly, I would suggest you some books that are necessary for NEET, and I will not provide any PDF of the books for NEET. I will provide only the PDF of the books for Olympiads, because the books for NEET are those that you need to have in your study desk in real. So for PDF, these books are not made, or I guess would be irrelevant to read these books in PDF format. If you are a serious NEET aspirant, if you are a serious Olympiad aspirant, you have to have some books that should be in your study table, and the books that are slightly overpriced or not the books that you will read every day, you can use this book's PDF copy. You will read those books only for Olympiad purpose, not for NEET. So let's start the video. The first book I have with me is the NEET section. The first section of the video will be definitely for the NEET exam. The book that you all know for NEET exam, I will point out, is the NCERT. Don't get me wrong, I would not advise you to read NCERT 5-6 times. Rather, I would say you read the NCERT book first time very, very slowly. You need to have a very good teacher who can make you understand each and every line's meaning, other than just underlining these lines. You need to have a mentor who can explain you the hidden meaning, why this line, why some lines of biology book says that most of these animals show this feature. What is the exception? Like right now I can remember one line from Animal Kingdom. In the porifera part, you will see that most poriferans are asymmetric, because there are 2 porifera that are radially symmetrical. So you need to have the hidden meaning of every line, every word. Here the word most is very important, because if the NEET exam says all poriferans are asymmetric, then the statement would be incorrect. So you need to have a good idea to understand the lines of NCERT. You need to read this book very carefully. You need a teacher who will explain you. This is not a book that you can read alone. You can read it 5 times, 6 times, but the first time you will read, this should be understood, and this teacher should make it understand to you, rather than just underlining the book entirely and saying you would read it 4 to 5 times. That would not be enough. The second I would discuss is the MCQ book. There are 2 books I would rather suggest that only 2 MCQ books are much more than enough, and you need not to have 4 or 5 MCQ books of biology. The first book I would say is the Dr. Ali's book. This book has some questions that are very, very well framed. One big problem with this book is that this book does not have assertion reason, in fact negligible amount. I would suggest you to buy a Dr. Ali book, the current edition, because the older edition, there are topics that are currently not in the NCERT syllabus. Although in the new edition also there are topics that are not in the NEET syllabus, but you can skip those topics. Overall, I would say that here the questions are conceptually very driven, and you will gradually gain interest after solving each and every question. There are no repetitive questions that one question has been repeated 2-3 times. Every question is framed very well in this book. Another problem is that the answer key at times is very inaccurate. There are certain chapters, the answer key section, I guess it is there are some typing mistakes. The next book of biology for MCQ that I would recommend is the Pearson's Biology, Objective Biology. This book has 2 sections of MCQ. The first section is the level 1, and here the questions are more or less, you can say, decent right from the NCERT part, the NCERT textbook part. But the level 2 questions are those that you need to think. You need to know NCERT very well, then only you can solve those level 2 questions. Overall, this is also a very good book. These are my recommendations of the 2 books that you can buy. Other than this, there are books like NCERT Word to Word, NCERT at your fingertips, Master the NCERT, Singage A to Z, Objective Biology by Truman's publication. These are certain books that are available in the market that you will see most of your friends are buying this book. But trust me, Dr. Ali and Objective Biology by Pearson are more than enough. But here I would also suggest you that there are 2-3 books that you should completely avoid. I think these books are not necessary for NEET and are very, very insufficient from the Olympiad exam. You will see most of your peer students, your peer pressure competitors would buy this book called Truman's Elementary Biology. These books are there in the market. I know there are certain teachers that recommend this book. In fact, the publication guy, the guy who is taking care of the marketing, He also gives me these books every year, the every updated version, and asks me to recommend it to students. But I have never recommended this book because this is an absurd biology book, the Truman's Elementary Biology. It was never relevant from the very first time. I don't know why this book is still recommended by many teachers, but this is not a book that you should buy. Another book is the GRB's book of biology, the theoretical book. And this is also, see, GRB Obligations has some very, very good books. In fact, in my student days, I used to study physical chemistry from O.P. Tandon when I was a student. That is a great book of physical chemistry, you can say. But here, I guess this theory book of biology by GRB Publications, it is absurd. It is not for NEET, and it is very, very insufficient for the Olympiad section. So this was all about the NEET section books. The next book that I will be moving is into the Olympiad sections. In the Olympiad sections, I have divided these books into certain categories. First category, you will see the general biology section. Here, I will name 4 books, and these 3 or 4 books are almost, you can say, they cover each and every aspect of biology. Some aspects are very, very well explained, but there are books, if you are preparing not for NSEB but for INBO directly, that because after clearing NSEB, you get very less time for INBO. So at that time, you cannot complete the other books. So if you are preparing for INBO, then you should have some special books of Zoology, a separate book, Botany, a separate book, then a separate book for genetics, a separate book for cell biology. So I would give my list. Other than this, you also need books for biochemistry, then human physiology, or you can directly say physiology. Then there are sections like ecology, ethology here, but I will name a book in the general biology section. If you read this book, then you need not to buy books of ecology and ethology separately. So the first book I will be naming here is the Raven-Johnson's Biology. This is a very complete book. Most of you are expecting that Sir would tell the name of Campbell's Biology, the Bible of biology for biology Olympiads. But this is not the case, for me at least. Both Campbell's Biology and Raven-Johnson's are equally good. Each and every topic of both these books are very well explained, but there is one topic in which Raven-Johnson is far, far more matter than the Campbell's book. That is incomparable to Raven-Johnson's Biology and Campbell's Biology. If you compare, you cannot directly compare these two topics. This is the topic of ecology and ethology. All other topics are very well explained in Raven-Johnson's, but these two topics, if you know that ecology is there in NEET, there are 3 chapters in the current NEET curriculum. In the NCERT book, the name of the chapters are organisms and population, ecosystem, and biodiversity and conservation. But this ecology is very superficial. You need to have an in-depth idea of ecology. If you have gone through the papers of NSEB or INBO last year, in fact, there are many questions that has been asked from the ecology section. And the last section named ethology is not there in NEET. At least in class 11 and 12 syllabus, you will not get it. So the ecology is the study of animal, ethology is the study of animal behavior. That part also is very, very good explained in the Raven-Johnson's book. I would suggest you to watch his video. He is a professor in the Stanford University. He has lectures of behavioral biology and the ethology part specifically. Those lectures are very, very good. In fact, I have learned a lot from his lectures, his playlist of behavioral biology. But one problem with his lecture is that he don't write anything in the board, or in fact, very, very less. He is someone who just is a proper lecturer. He gives lectures. He don't prepare any slides. He don't write anything. What you can do as a student is that have the use of AI in yourself. Say you have watched the first lecture, copy this link, the YouTube video link, then go to Notebook-LM. Notebook-LM is a software by Google. So you can go to Google and type Notebook-LM, enter the website, press on create a notebook, and then give the link of his video and give a prompt to give a summary of this lecture. Give a point-wise flowchart of what he explained, and that AI will give it to you within a few seconds, right? And then you can copy this or make it a PDF and save it. So this is something you can do as a student, because you need to revise it again. Otherwise you will forget that. So first book I would definitely say is the Raven-Johnson's book. It is very, very complete book. But one part where this book struggles is the taxonomy part and the animal diversity, plant diversity part. But I would say that the taxonomy part and the diversity part are not very much relevant in INBO preparation, because in the INBO syllabus, the plant diversity, the animal diversity part is not a topic that more number of questions are asked, although it is there in NSEB. But in INBO, very, very limited questions are asked, because in the official syllabus part also that plant and animal diversity is not directly mentioned, although you need to have the concepts of plant diversity and animal diversity to solve questions. But the part which is given here in Raven-Johnson or in Campbell's is enough. It feels a bit boring in Raven-Johnson's also, in Campbell's also, but I would not suggest that you should buy a separate book for it, because that would be irrelevant. The next book will be definitely Campbell's Biology. So here is an image from Raven-Johnson's. I have put it here because he is Lawrence, who received Nobel Prize in 1973 for his experiment. Behind this human, you will find some goslings following him. He did an experiment in which he proved that when the goslings hatch and the first animal or the organism they see, they treat it as the mother species and follows it during its movement. So these are topics of ethology, animal behavior, and the cognitive part also is very well explained in Raven Johnson's. The next book will be the Bible of Biology for Olympiads, the Campbell's Biology. I have the 11th edition only. Because there might be a new edition that came, but I'm too much acquainted with this because I have been following it. Initially, I used to follow the 10th edition, but then when I started following it, I didn't have a mood to change it because I became very acquainted with that book. So I read this book, the 11th edition. This is also a very good book, but the part of that biochemistry and animal physiology is quite, I would say, decent. That's why I said that for biochemistry as well as physiology, you need to have separate book. In fact, in Raven Johnson also, it is not that it is insufficient, but I guess you need to have a separate book. In Raven Johnson, it is good, but you still need to have a separate book of biochemistry and physiology if you are specifically preparing for INBO. The next book of general biology I would advise is the Cambridge Biological Sciences by D.J. Taylor. Then this is a book that most of you have seen in my cabin. Most of the times I read this book. Earlier, actually, when AIMS used to have separate exam, there were questions that I can show you that came directly line by line from this book. So this is a book that I used to read, I used to teach as well for the AIMS exam. But since now the AIMS do not have a separate exam, the only medical entrance exam is NEET. So this book is now placed for the Olympiad section. And in the Olympiad section, since it is a general biology book, then you need to compare it with Campbell's or Raven Johnson. So comparing it to Campbell's and Raven Johnson, I would say that this doesn't stand out today. Because today Raven Johnson and Campbell's are one of the finest books of general biology that you will get. And both of them have their problems, but I guess one step ahead I would choose Raven's biology because if in fact Raven Johnson's biology, the reason being that the last part, psychology, ethology part, that is very, very well explained in this book. And the other parts are equally, in fact, you will get 1-2 aspects in which Raven Johnson's biology is good. You will get some other parts in which Campbell's biology is good, but the ecology and ethology part of Raven Johnson's is incomparable. The next book that I would suggest you is the Pathfinders book. Now, you might not have heard about this book. The Pathfinders Biology is a book that is for NET, IIT, JAM exams. But this book has 2 parts. Why it is essential for Olympiads? Because the book is something made like that you read a book and you get a practice book. The first 2 books are theory books. And there is another, not this one. There is another book. The part 3 of it is just an MCQ book, or you can say this is just a question practice book, not directly MCQ, I would say. The third book that you will get here after this and this is a practice question book, which is very essential. I would say that if you read a book and you need questions to solve, then this one is the best one. But in terms of theory and all, I would say that it is incomparable to Raven's and Campbell's one. Next part I will move. Now the general biology part is over. I named you 4 books, the Raven Johnson, Campbell's, followed by the Cambridge Biological Sciences by D.J. Taylor, then Pathfinder's book. Now I will put forward 2 specific topics, one book. For, say, zoology, the Integrated Principles of Zoology by Hickman and Kin is one of the best zoology books, I would say. No, this is not a book that explains physiology very well, I would say. Yeah, but there are certain topics of physiology like neurology, cardiology is very well explained here. But the kingdom system part, the animal kingdom and all, that parts are very well, those parts, I mean, very well explained in this book. A very complete book of zoology, you can say that if you buy this book, you need not to have any other zoology specific book in your bookshelf. But there is a topic in which these books together, these are some pages. See how I got interest while reading this book is by reading this paragraph. This paragraph says that there are chemical synapses in an individual. If you know about synapse, the chemical synapses in an individual gets modified with experience and time. That is, a child will have slower chemical synapse and an adult will have faster chemical synapse. These are the topics that I would say drowns your attention as a reader. When you read a book, then you see there is a chart of schizophrenia. These are the topics that gradually develops interest in the subject, I would say. Someone who is treating botany and zoology equally, these are the way that an author presents a book, which makes it more readable, more understandable, and then more bit attractive and catchy. That second time, third time you open this book, fourth time you open this book. So for developing interest, this book is a complete book of zoology, I would say. Next is the botany book. See, this is a book that has nothing disadvantage, nothing bad, I would say. This book is itself a self-explanatory book, the Raven's Biology of Plant, a book that when I say I will give PDF, you can try and search that this book's PDF is not available anywhere. Anywhere you have to download a PDF, it would be paid. You cannot get a free PDF of this book. I am providing in the comment. I will provide to everyone who are commenting book in this video section, but the free PDF of this book is not available or easily available, I would say. So I would give you this book, but I would say that if you have heard the chapters plant morphology, plant anatomy, these are the topics that are very, very, very well explained in Reven's biology of plant. The topics of physiology are also very much self-explanatory. Photosynthesis, respiration, then plant hormones part, growth regulation part, types of growth, patterns of growth, the mathematical basis of plant growth are also very, very well explained. At the end of the chapter, in the last page or the second last page of this book, I would like to add that it takes a special plant, any plant, and explains a case about that plant, kind of case study. So this also makes this book very interesting. And one book of botany is enough. I mean, more than sufficient for any Olympiads, Reven's biology of plants. The next book I would suggest is that, the chapters of ecology are not very good. Where you will get this, you will get it in Reven Johnson's biology. The chapter number 27, 28, 29, the last 3 chapters of this book about ecology. Then the geology part also, that is the study of soil part. It is also not very good here. It is good in the Reven Johnson's. The next book I would suggest is the cell biology, the study of cell by Cooper, and this is one of the finest books of cytology you will get for class 11th student or a NEET aspirant who have already studied class 11th biology, class 12th biology. They feel that cell is about chapter number 8 and chapter number 10, the unit of life and cell cycle and cell division. You will get to know a lot about cell while you study this book, because the topic cytology holds a decent number of questions in INBO. So if you need to have a strong grip, then this book is very, very good. The cell signaling pathway and all are very well discussed here. The part which I would say is not the best is the cell cycle part, and the part which I would feel is decent, I mean not very good, is the part of cytoskeletal elements. See, the elements, the cytoskeleton part, the motility part. See, the cytoskeleton part is something that as a student you would like to read a book which you would feel that it is anatomically explaining you the structures you get to visualize. Here these books, I guess it feels detached from the reader. The reader just have to read like a theory. He or she cannot completely anatomically visualize the topic. For that also, Campbell's biology is good, Reven Johnson's biology is good, specifically for the cytoskeletal part. Other than that, this book is a great book of biology. Right? The next book is about the physiology. You are acquainted with the name of this book. This is a medical physiology book. You read it in the MBBS first year. In fact, when I was in first year, initial days I used to struggle in physiology. My teacher used to take the lecture for 1 hour, 15 minutes. But there were days that I did not understand anything what he taught in the class. After a month, in fact, I went to him and asked that I'm struggling with biology, the physiology part, I would say. And he's asked me which book I read. I think I can name. The name of that book was by Elsevier publication. The name of the author was Linda S. Costanzo. The problem with that book that I was studying is that this book was very good. In fact, even if I see that book today, now that book feels very interesting. But at that time, my knowledge was a bit limited when I was in first year, so I could not get along with this book for a longer time, and I was not improving in physiology. But then my teacher recommended they study their book that everyone studies, the Guyton and Hall, and you will gradually develop interest. Now, why I took Linda S. Costanzo, since everyone was studying Guyton and Hall, is also a story, because when we go to college, you make a library card, and from library you get books for free that you need to renew over a period of time. So in our batch, everyone took the Guyton and Physiology and no more books were available. So then I found a book and I randomly picked the Costanzo book from Elsevier's publication. And this is a good book. I won't say that is bad, but I guess Guyton's Physiology is much better for a first timer. Since you are not an expert in biology, you want to become a good biologist. So for that, the Guyton and Hall is very good. There are case studies that are extremely interesting in Guyton and Hall. They will explain you a case, and with that case, they will relate you the topic that you have previously read and what you will read in the next chapter. So these are the things that makes this book stand out. The next book that I will talk, there is a disadvantage of the book is the, no, I haven't mentioned it here. I guess this is the same slide that I brought there. The disadvantage of the book is that in the in the chapters that are towards the end of the book, those chapters, certain chapters become irrelevant. Until the part of that diabetes and all, the book is quite relevant. But the last chapters, I won't say that the author has written it badly, but the problem with those chapters are that they are not needed for the INBO preparation. We had them in our syllabus, but in the college first year physiology, but for INBO, these are not necessary. The last chapters of physiology, guidance and all physiology, the computational biology. The next book is a biochemistry book. Now see, For biochemistry, you can study Leninger's Principle of Biochemistry, which is a good book. You can study, which is not this one. You can study Lippincott's, I guess, is a good book. But what I have studied personally is this book, Harper's. Most of my friends used to study another book by an Indian author, the Vasudevan. There is another book by U. Satyanarayana. That is also a good book by an Indian author. Principles of Biochemistry is the name of that book. But I also used to take reference because the night before the exam, you need a book which would help you to write the answers in the exam hall, and that was Principles of Biochemistry. By those Indian authors, the Vasudevan as well as the U. Satyanarayana. But this is a book that makes you conceptually very, very strong. Means you cannot compare. I am not defaming any author because they are maybe 1,000 times more talented than me. But if you compare U. Satyanarayana book with Harper's book of biochemistry, then this book stands out. In fact, in a lot of way, the metabolism part of this book is very, very detailed and very, very interesting. You have heard the names of glycolysis, Krebs cycle. They would explain this topic in relation to, if you read this book, you will get to know that they related Krebs cycle glycolysis with the free energy, the delta G. The first time I came to know that there are reactions that are non-spontaneous, there are reactions that are spontaneous, and both of them take place in a single metabolic pathway. In Krebs cycle, you will get both type of reactions that are spontaneous, that are non-spontaneous as well. In my first year, I came to know when I read this book. In my 11th, 12th, I never knew that there are spontaneous and non-spontaneous reactions taking place in our body at the same metabolic cycle. And when I became a teacher, this is the first thing I teach when I teach glycolysis and Krebs cycle. I ask this question in the class. If you are from class 11 going to class 12, or if you are already in class 12 appearing for NEET this year, you all know that I ask this question in class. So first time I came to know about this from this book. Everything is very well explained and you will gradually develop interest in this book when you start. Initially, biochemistry feels boring for first week, 1 week, but gradually you develop interest in biochemistry. The next book I would say is in this book, if I would say the decent part is the nutrition and vitamins part. The vitamins metabolism is also not very well explained. The digestive physiology, the nutrition part is not well explained. The next book that I would be going is the genetics part. Genetics is a topic that is the most asked topic in INBO paper. You can have a look at the paper of last 5 years. The most asked questions are from genetics because this topic has a root in every other aspect. In general biology also you will find genetics. In botany, zoology you will find roots of genetics. In physiology you can understand certain concepts of cell biology by understanding genetics itself. It has its roots in biochemistry and physiology as well. So there are many books of genetics. My opinion is slightly different from others because I don't see many teachers recommending this book. In fact, I don't see any teacher recommending this book. I have read many books of genetics till now. Many, in fact, really many. But this is a book by Russell's and the name of this book is iGenetics. If your level of genetics is very less, you can start this book. And I promise you, you will end in, by the time you end this book, you will be in such a level in the genetics that in fact, your knowledge in genetics will be more than that of a student who has done BSc in genetics, right? Like your knowledge will be like that, nearly like an MSc student who is pursuing MSc in genetics. And why I'm still recommending this book? Because the level from which it starts is very low. This book assumes that the author of this book assumes that someone who is reading this has some basic knowledge in biology, who is starting it and has still now not studied genetics at all. And from here, if you study that book also, you will become very good in the topic of genetics because the questions of genetics in INBO are not something that you will memorize and answer like those written in Campbell's biology or Raven Johnson's biology also. When you read genetics from those topics, those two books, you will find that genetics is something that you need to recall. But this is a book that makes you conceptually very sound about genetics, and questions of INBO are framed like that. So for NSEB, separate books are not necessary. You can just buy Raven Johnson's and that is enough for NSEB. But if you want to clear INBO, then this is the book you need to have for genetics. From very basic level to very advanced level is all I can say. See, in the descent part, I wrote that the gene mapping and the gene regulation in eukaryotes. Gene regulation in eukaryotes is, I guess, the third last chapter of this book. In that, I won't say that the book is decent or it is not very well written. It is written in such a way that much detailing is not necessary for INBO. The regulation part, the gene expression in eukaryotes part, the gene expression in prokaryotes is necessary. This is something you have also in your NEET syllabus in the form of lacoperon. So that part is very well explained in this book. In fact, the gene expression in eukaryotes is also very well explained, but it is so good that it is not necessary. It is far higher from the level of INBO, I would say. So these are the topics you can skip from iGenetics, the regulation part, and the gene expression in eukaryotes part. But the prokaryotes part you need to study. So this was the last book I have in my list. Now you might think that in the list that I mentioned, it had the names of ecology and ethology, right? The list that I named, the books I will discuss. The books here, you can see. Here I have the sections of ecology and ethology. After genetics, I stopped discussing because I already said ecology and ethology are best explained in general biology part, that book by Raven Johnson. And you need not to have any separate book. You need not to buy Smith and Smith's ecology to study ecology and environment. The ecology in Raven Johnson is more than enough for the INBO section. And comment book here and you will get all the books. I hope to see you all soon in the classrooms that are starting from second week of April. Both the batches of NEET will start from April and the batches of Olympiad will start from May, because the admissions for Olympiad has not yet started. I will allow only those students to take admission in Olympiad batches that are performing very good in the Olympiad, in the NEET batches. So these are the books that I would recommend you to buy, or the NEET books at least I would recommend you to buy. The Olympiad books, you can read the PDF. You can buy one book, the general biology part, the books I mentioned, you can buy any of them. I gave my recommendations, but my best recommendation I said is the Raven Johnson, and you can buy this book. And other than that, I don't think any other book is necessary. You can use PDF, or at times when you study a chapter, you can just print it out, the PDF, not the entire book, that particular chapter you can print out, and then when you read the second chapter, if you feel it is necessary, you can take a printout. You can have a discussion with me personally if you want to take a printout of which chapter or not. Then I would like to say that don't start preparing for INBO later. When you start preparation for Olympiad, simultaneously start your preparation for INBO. Don't ever think that after clearing NSEB, we will start reading for INBO. Those students, they never clear NSEB actually. The students that think of INBO can clear NSEB. Other than the students that don't prepare for INBO and they get clear NSEB are very rare. I won't say they don't exist, but they are very rare, because they have that state percentile or that state number of top 1% from the state who can clear this exam. In that aspect, you might clear, but if your dedication is really to clear INBO, because these Olympiads help you to get direct admissions in some great colleges even outside the country. So you need not to qualify any exam directly. There are certain IITs, in fact, that are bringing programs that will give you direct admission based on your Olympiad rank, even whether you have attended the summer camp or not. So these are the things that drives a student for the Olympiad. And I think if you are starting the NEET preparation simultaneously, if you are interested, you should start your INBO preparation. See you soon in the classroom.